Alrighty. Hello everyone. Welcome to another one of these, what do I want to call them? Pencil and chat videos? Is that a way of describing it, I suppose? Now, I did one of these, the last time I did one of these, I think I've done a couple. The last one was just about exactly 3 years ago. So it's been a little while, and that video did alright. Actually, our last couple of videos have done pretty good. Pretty good for a webcomic of our size. Anyway, so I figured I would dip my toes into this again, and the idea is simple. Literally, it's just we sit here, I do a stupid drawing, and say just whatever comes to mind, and the whole idea is that we're just kicking back and relaxing and just going with the flow. And for some strange reason, people like these sorts of videos. People have there have been YouTubers that get loads of views just from sitting at a table and reading what they got at the store that day. I don't know why. I think it's just the simplicity. There's so much chaos and overcomplications in the world today. I think people just like to take a moment and sit down and do something that literally has no impact whatsoever. Because we're always so obsessed with what we're doing, what other people are doing, what's happening, and I think it's nice once in a while to kind of step away from that and just kind of dumb out for a bit. So the way that I do that, I guess, is I sit down and I just go totally, I mentally check out, and that's when I get my best work done on the comic strip. So here we are. Now this video already, if you are, I don't know, subscribed to the channel or saw the previous video 3 years ago or something like that, you're probably already noticing there's been some changes, some adjustments. It looks quite different compared to the previous one. I guess one of those is because I no longer live where I lived 3 years ago, so the setup's going to be different anyway. It's still the same drawing board, but everything else is different and new. And I'll tell you why. So, the previous video had me on camera, but in order to show what I was drawing, I didn't have like a camera setup or a tripod or anything back then, so literally it was just like my arm, and every once in a while I leaned way down so you could see like my mouth as I'm talking directly to the camera, and that was just horrible. So I do have a tripod now, or a camera setup, and it's got a studio light and everything, and if you heard that, that's my cat just freaking out over nothing. She rolled on the floor and took off. So I have that now. I'm not using it. Why? I don't feel like it. I don't want to have to set it up. Something that I should point out is that if I'm a little bit off in this video, not only is it because I haven't done a video on this channel or like this in 3 years, but it's also because I do not feel good today. I don't know if I'm overworking myself with all the stuff I've had going on, or if I've got a cold or a flu, or whatever's happening, but I have just spent the last, I think, hour and a half to 2 hours laying in bed feeling horrible, but then I was like, I am bored out of my mind. I gotta go do something. So I really didn't feel like having to set up a whole big production. So literally right now, I could have set this up and had nice studio lighting and all of that, and it would have been so nice. But instead, I have this. I'm recording on my phone, and it's being propped up right now by a can of sugar-free Sody Pop. So that's how we're doing it. And you're facing my computer screen. And that's just how we're gonna do it, I guess. It's still much better than the previous video. Now, another thing. I no longer draw how I used to. You can probably already tell because there's a computer in this video. 3 years ago, I was still doing things somewhat traditionally, in that I would pencil the strip on paper with an actual pencil. Now I'm using this, but I was using an actual pencil. Ooh, wow, that's rare these days. And then I would scan it into Photoshop, and I would ink and letter and color it in Photoshop. Well, my dear viewers, these days, you know, you gotta roll with the times and adapt as things change. That's just the world. And so now, I do everything digitally. I pencil it digitally, I ink it digitally, letter and color it digitally, distribute it digitally. Everything is digital. Because now I have a Wacom drawing tablet, which a lot of professional digital artists have. It's not as big as most Wacoms, but it suits my needs just right, and I get to draw directly on the screen. Which before, if I ever drew digitally, and when I inked the strip, it was all done kind of like pen and pad, and I had to look here to see what I was doing. Now I get to draw directly on the screen. Now this is a touch screen, which is helpful. And then over to the side, you can't see it just because I'm trying to set up this video, but I have my Wacom over here that I'm drawing directly on the screen, which is wonderful, and I can get in and do all sorts of things that I never got to do before. I probably won't today because I'm not really feeling 100% up to doing a bunch of crazy stuff, but I can do a lot more details now, and anyone who reads the strip can probably notice a slight difference. Now, speaking of difference, this is the last thing I want to mention, then we'll just kind of mellow out here and do some silly doodles. I do have an idea of what I'm going to draw, but if we look here, this is what the strip looks like these days. The strip that I released yesterday was the first of its kind in this new format. And the reason for the change... So the format has changed, and the humor has changed a little bit, in that it's a lot more loose. I've got a couple of strip ideas, though. I'm going to do a more simple one today, and I'll save the other one for next time. But this is our format now. We've gone from 3 panels to 4 panels, which, oh my dear gracious, more work. I have to draw another panel. Oh. Now, it's still pretty much, it's not a huge difference. The panels are still the same exact size. And basically what it was 3. So I took the 3rd and I moved it down here and I added another one here. So now instead of a strip, it's more like a box. And the reason for that is I put this on the Tanner and Casey Facebook page, which is simply titled Tanner and Casey Official is the username, or the name of the page is just Tanner and Casey. It's got a green profile pic, and that's how you know it's us. Anyway, moving on. So I released a little statement there saying that there are going to be some changes to the strip, and there have been, and that is simply because I always drew the strip kind of print in mind first, newspapers first, and then I worried about, you know, putting it out digitally and on the website and social media and all of that. But times, like I said, even with the way I draw it now, in terms of pen and paper, now it's all on a screen, times change and we must adapt. And so now my approach is webcomic first, and then, you know, if I want to reach out to a newspaper, and we've been in newspapers before, but now the focus is webcomic first, because that's just the way things go now. Newspapers are cutting strips left and right. I said this in my post, so I'll quickly summarize. I've already taken too much time on my little digressions here, but in Australia, I know, and the UK, a lot of their papers, if they even have a comic, are down to like one comic. I think the Daily Mirror in the UK is only running Andy Cap, and that's it. That's their only strip each day. And to go a little bit further out in the world, in Australia, the popular comic strip, which is popular here in North America as well, I don't know if it's to the same degree, of course, but Ginger Meg's is now back to only being new on Sundays. So the new strips are only on Sundays, whereas before, for a couple of decades, they were also doing dailies, but now they've cut back down to Sundays because they've lost papers, because they're all cutting the comics. So there's no sense in drawing it every day if it's not being run every day. The North American papers still run it every day, so now those are in reruns, and that's a very unfortunate thing. Now here in North America, comics pages are no longer pages. They're just one page or a half a page now, and it's honestly shocking how long newspaper strips have kind of hung on. Just 3 years ago, the paper here in this city that I'm in right now dropped from a full page to a half page of comics, and other papers are going from 3 to 1 page. And a lot of papers, what they're doing now is they're standardizing their comics pages. So they're all from one syndicate instead of like 3 or 4 syndicates. And they're all the same strips in each paper. Every different paper all over the place has the exact same comics. So they don't speak specifically to those communities. They're just standardized because I betcha they're getting a bit of a deal by running the exact same thing pre-laid out all over the place. And then on top of that, they don't have to spend time and money and resources designing fresh pages for each individual paper. So from a business standpoint, because newspapers are kind of on their way out, it makes a hell of a lot of sense, but it's unfortunate for new creators or fresh content or unique reading experiences, basically chucked aside. So, now we draw a webcomic first. So, the humor is a lot more loose. I'm not so much catering to newspaper readers or newspaper editors anymore. Now I'm basically just doing whatever the hell I want. When before I was very strict about what I drew and what I wrote and who would be reading it, what the audience would be. Now essentially what I'm doing is just whatever I think is going to be funny, I draw it. And I draw it in this format because the strips were made to fit newspaper columns. Now this fits the screen better. You can probably already see. So if you're on mobile, this will take up half to like 3/4 of your screen when you're scrolling past it on YouTube or something, or on, sorry, on well, we do the shorts now too, but on Facebook, for example. So it's a lot easier to catch, and it's bigger on your screen now because it takes up your whole screen. So it's just a nicer format, and like I said, we're catering to digital first, then print and books or whatever later. Plus, this would fit better on a book page anyway. So that's my little my little digression there. I digress. Let's get a move on before I even forget what my joke is. And let's get doodling. So, I'm out of breath after saying all that, but that's where we're at these days with the newspaper industry. And let me just say, I'm going to start with Casey first because she's easier to draw. Let me just say that the response to the new style of the, not style, style makes you think of drawing style, the new format and humor to the strip, I guess, is being received a lot better than the old way of how we did things. When we catered to print first and to newspaper audiences and editors, you know, we had to keep things a lot more tame, and there was a certain caps to what we could do. Not anymore, and I think people are just enjoying, you know, kind of the freshness of the strip, because for me it's fresher now. I will be perfectly honest in that since the last one of these videos I did, I hadn't been having as much fun drawing the strip, to the point where I was considering starting a new strip, or even ending this one, which I really didn't want to do, because this year marks 10 years that I've been doing this strip, and I really didn't want for it to come to that, but I really just, I wasn't feeling it anymore, and I wasn't really enjoying it anymore. And I think that's just because after 10 years of being so worried about, you know, like I say, here, I think I'm gonna do that, that's better. Being so concerned about newspapers, newspaper this, newspaper that, you know, and drawing in the same template for 10 years. You know, I kind of got to a point where I was just kind of done, but thankfully now that I've kind of allowed myself to be a little more loose with what I do, I've actually been enjoying it so much more, and you know, that's what counts first and foremost. And the response has been better. People have been enjoying it more, it seems. So, you know, that's a win. That's a win for me. That's what counts. So, this is another benefit of drawing digitally now. I can do all this crazy stuff, which is so much easier than back when I drew with pencil. Because before, because if you're noticing what I'm doing, it is he was like, here, let me see if I can demonstrate. He was like that, and now I've kind of reworked his face to look a little bit more proportionate. When before, with, you know, drawing on paper, I would have had to totally erased all this and restarted. But now I don't have to do that, so that's nice. I actually might make it a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit wider. So I'm just having so much more fun with what I do now, which is good because I have been so busy lately with various things. Like I have a busy job outside the strip, and I write a magazine, and I write for funny enough, I write for a newspaper, and you know, I'm always on the go, and it's nice to have something that I can just come in and relax and just enjoy, and other people enjoy it too. So immediately I'm noticing problems with what I'm drawing. But the good thing is I'm drawing digitally, so if I mess something up, it's super easy. I don't have to keep going back and forth and back and forth. So I'm wondering if I've got his arm a little too long. So if I did that, already it's looking a bit better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that so I don't have to redraw it, and just bring it up. And then this, we'll select that, go to my arrow button, bring it in. Boom! Hell of a lot better. That stuff, see, that stuff that you could not do before with the old way. But now with the new way, we can do it. So I'm just going to make him a little more sized up to Casey. And then, yes, yes. And then I'm going to come here. I sound like Tom Nook. Yes, yes. Maybe, actually, he might be alright. Maybe just a tiny bit down. Alright, I'm going to leave it like that. So there we go. We've set up our gag. And now we'll put in... This is just the pencil stage, so it's all just nice and rough. Some dirt on the floor. We should really sweep. But I won't judge. Seems I'm literally the one drawing. Ah, gee, I can't believe these guys. They don't even clean up after themselves. Oh, that's just horrible. But meanwhile, I'm the one that's dictating everything that they do. Let's have. I'm going to cut that off right there. Reflection. Maybe some grass. Maybe a fence and a hill. Just something simple. Whoop! I tell you, I love it. I love it. I love it. Too tall? No problem. No problem at all. Fix it like that. There you go. All done. Just like that. Isn't that wonderful? I think it's wonderful. Of course, I'm the one drawing it, so of course I'm going to say that. Then we'll go here. So here's the fun part where we get to put in. Whoops. Darn it. Let's see. 30 here. Okay. here's the part where I interrupt the shot. I have to come up with what he's going to say. I have an idea as to what he's going to say, but I don't have the exact words in my mind, which is how I always do it, because I think it's more fun that way. It's more interesting when you're drawing it, you know. I've been drawing this for 10 years. Gotta keep it interesting. So, because literally what I did with the last strip with the bird is I had absolutely no idea what the joke was when I started drawing it. That's usually what I do. This one and the next one I got kind of pre-written in my mind, but I never write it down. And literally what I did was I just thought, bird. So I drew a bird. He should say something, so I had him say something. And then as I went along, I was like, oh my god, this is hilarious. Now I have my joke. So, let's see. What are we going to do here? Let's see here. Oh, come on, brain. I had it until now. I know the joke. I just gotta think to write it down. See here, I hate how, that doesn't need to be bold. I hate how these shampoo bottles feel. Oh, actually, shampoo companies feel the need to have instructions on the bottle. Alright, so there we go. We've set up our joke now. And now what we do in comics is we bold the important words to add emphasis. Shampoo companies, let's have that bolded too. Okay. So there we go. Now, just as one final thing, I will show what we do now to letter the strip, because now that's different too. I used to go into my Wacom or drawing tablet or wherever I had and hand draw the balloons. But now, if you look like here, 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 I guess those are the best examples. Kind of here, you'll see that my hand shakes horribly. It's a benign tremor, and I have seen people about it. But it kind of affected my word balloons to the point where they just looked horrible. So now I do it this way, so it looks less horrible. So let's go here. 7 is the width I like. And now that I've set up my layer style to have a stroke around it, we'll see what that means in a second. I've got my secondary color as white, so go CTRL, or Control, backspace. Oh, actually I should have been 17, not 7. But anyway, it adds in a circle with a line for me. Let's fix that. Try 17. Is that what it was? That must have been what it was. Unless, I'm actually thinking, what if we do 20? Is that better? I don't know. Let's see here. What did we do for this one? Let me just do an example. So let's do 17. Okay, we did 17. Alright, 17 it is. I want things to be fairly consistent. Style settings, stroke, 17. Alright. So that's how we're doing it. And then we'll go down. Now, I used to have a much easier way of doing this, but I can't remember what it was. So this is how I do it now. let's see, just trying to make it look nice and rounded. Oops. Now let's go over here. Oh, too far. Didn't really pay attention to what I was doing. Alright, that looks alright. Now we'll come down here, and we'll do the same thing down here. Maybe like that. Oops, did it again. And I'm seeing a bit of a line here. So I'm going to do is go in. I think that's because of all those accidental backspaces I did. We'll just clean that up a little bit. This is what would have been whiteout back in the day. Now, what I do to put my tail in, the word balloon tail, is I use my Poly Select tool. Click, 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 control, back, whoops, wrong color, control, back, and there we go, we have my tail. And we go here, go away. And we hit the backspace to try and get this to line up with the panel. And there we go. Our first panel is all penciled and ready for inks. And lettered, I suppose. So that's how we do it now. So I spent too much of this video rambling. Of course, it's been 3 years, so we had to get caught up. But now you're up to date with everything that's going on, Tanner and Casey. We are just primarily webcomic now, and we are formatted as such. We're totally digital now, and things are just, I personally think, things are just a lot more fun these days. So it's a great time to be reading Tanner and Casey. Things are really heating up and keeping things fresh. And we are celebrating 1 decade of Tanner and Casey, which is unreal. So thank you everyone so much who reads the strip and maybe watches the videos. I don't know, the 2 of you who do. And keeping us going. And of course, for putting us in the newspapers and books that we have been in. And interviews and I don't know, whatever. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed just relaxing, letting me ramble about nonsense and not having to do or think about anything, and just wasting time. So that will be it for this Pencil and Chat. I might be back. Who knows? I don't. Bye-bye.